So Daphne, tell me, where do you live?
I'm in the Mission Dolores area.
And tell me how long have you lived there?
I've lived in San Francisco for 27 years, and I've been in the Mission for 25.
You told me that in your question you've been there at the same apartment for almost half of the time that you've lived here.
Yeah, I've been there for 12 years.
And you've seen some changes.
A lot of changes in the neighborhood, but also in my direct neighborhood and in my building, which is 6 units. We have been through 3 different property managers in the past 2 years, and now they bought half the building out. They are now renovating all 3 units, and we've been living with construction work for the past 2 years, and now they have told us they are digging 3 units under my building, so it's another year plus of construction.
So you also had a question for our candidates. Tell me your question for our candidates.
My question was specifically how the candidates would address people in the under $50,000 a year bracket, and how you would go to protect people in housing so they can continue to work. Because if I lose my housing, I have to leave San Francisco after building a life here for 27 years.
Thank you for sharing your question with us. So candidates, let's try to answer Daphne's question. How can we build housing for folks who are making $50,000 a year or below, and make sure that maybe Daphne still has a place to live? Angela, you're holding the mic.
Next?
Yeah, you might as well. Come on, you're holding the mic.
I can't do this alphabetical thing, figure out where I am in it. That's exactly the population that I'm referring to, trying to stay in San Francisco and keep you in San Francisco, because quite frankly, you are San Francisco. And we have brought all of these the tech industry to this city where it's become a $1 billion city, but there was no planning. There was no municipal planning. Nobody sat down with everybody and said, okay, if you're going to bring 3,000 people to this building, where are they going to live? Where are they going to park their cars? Are they going to drive? The Lyft Uber thing, in my opinion, is one of the biggest scams ever, because they come, they come, you know, I admit I don't take them. But having said that, they come and they do business in the city and county of San Francisco. I own my little civil rights law firm. I pay business tax. I do business in the city. They come here, they do business, and they pay no city taxes at all. They're ruining our streets. They park in the middle of the street. They're arrogant. They're arrogant. They cause not just traffic, but dangerous situations, and they don't pay a penny to be able to work in our city. Now, I'm not saying the poor driver, who, as I understand it, even makes less than minimum wage, which is disgraceful, but we should demand that that Uber, Lyft, and Chariot sit down at the table with the city and county of San Francisco and agree on how they're going to do business here and take part in the infrastructure, because having said that, that money can go to housing to people that do make $50,000, $60,000 a year. But also, there need to be coalitions. There's no such thing as coalitions in the present government, where you sit down with the government, the IT, and the communities, and you have a coalition of people who are aimed at keeping the people that make $50,000 a year a year. Each development project needs to have an agreement that there's going to be availability for that that salary range.
Thank you, Angela.
I always feel like you're telling me it.
No, I'm the haunting y'all. Who wants to tackle that question next? Yeah, you can go ahead.
We have to protect tenants in place today with strong tenant protection ordinances, like Eviction Protection 2.0, and also like the right to counsel, which will be on the ballot for June 5th. We know that close to 90% of tenants don't have any type of representation in eviction proceedings, but when they do, they win the vast majority of the time. So they did it in New York City. Please vote for it on June 5th. I want to thank Tenants Together and Tenants Union for putting on the ballot, because we absolutely need to provide the right to counsel in these types of cases. We need to both protect rent control buildings and strengthen tenant protections and rent control and repeal Costa-Hawkins, and we need to build more affordable housing. That is a two-pronged approach to how we keep our working and middle class housed here in San Francisco. We can build and continue to build on tenant protections as we continue to. I believe we should expand rent control. That requires a change in state law. I think we should have a rolling rent control year. So as each year moves up, another year of constructed units goes on the rent control market, because those are our working class and middle class units here in San Francisco. And we have to build more affordable and middle income housing. Building housing alone will not make San Francisco more affordable. Building as much affordable and middle income housing as possible is going to make San Francisco more affordable. And we need to increase both developer obligation in creating that type of housing, and also put in more public subsidies and funding to make sure that we're both creating affordable housing and preserving rent control buildings.
So I just want to dive in a little bit to this idea of the additional dwelling unit program that I'd like to see happen in San Francisco. So once again, there are 37,000 parcels that have been identified to have one or more additional units added within the existing building envelope. So what the city could do with a pool of money is say, we go to the property owners, and let's start with, small property owners and marginalized communities first, and we say, we've identified your building to be able to have an additional dwelling unit. If you sign here, we will take care of the financing. We won't add property tax increase. We'll do the design and construction, all of that for you, if you agree to rent to one of our workforce or residents or families in SFUSD for a maximum of 30% net of their income. Doesn't that sound amazing? I mean, think about that for a second. What we would do is be saying, we're going to take care of the financing for this, so as you are paying off that loan with the rent that's coming in, we have an expanded pool of our workforce and families and residents who are currently rent burdened, who would join in. This could be done through MoCD, the Mayor's Office of Housing, new online platform, Dahlia. Let's say you're a worker and you're paying more than 30% net of your income, or you can't live in the city, you can't afford to live in the city. You could be part of this. The other part I really like about this idea is that we could focus it on 100% local hire. And so that means that people would be we'd be building the building trades with our underemployed and unemployed residents to be able to build San Francisco together. So chew on that. I know there's a lot that I just shared with you.
Thank you. Thank you guys for being mindful of the time. I want to try to get to some of the questions there, so thank you so much.
So Tabitha, I wasn't quite sure from your situation if your landlord was making these improvements with the intent to so disrupt your life and your fellow neighbors' lives that you would leave. If that's the case, you're not quite sure, but if that is the case, or when that happens, and we do know that that happens, there should be a direct hotline to the mayor's office so that we can keep an eye on that and make sure the tenants who are being harassed are addressed. Getting back to that Ellis Act, which is abused by speculators who aren't landlords and don't intend or pretend to be landlords, as I mentioned, they should be challenged in court and stopped from using a law that was not written for them, and keep folks in their housing. We also, when I was in Sacramento, authored a bill that clarified in state law that teachers should be able to benefit from affordable housing that is on land deemed to be surplus by school districts throughout California. And that way we can address a middle income range of folks who are in need, specifically in the school district, teachers as well as other staff. And so using a variety of opportunities, both with low-income tax credits. This beautiful place, this building, built in, I think, 1910, houses 172 formerly homeless people. There was some general fund money, but a lot of low-income tax credits from the federal government, as well as, because it's a historic building, historic tax credits. So again, piecing together as many ways as possible, keeping folks in their homes, like Tabitha, and those who are on the street into homes in permanent supportive housing.
Thank you.